friends, welcome again to the second half of this webinar, and Vineet and I will take some excerpts from the autobiography and share some thoughts on that. The first one I have chosen is April 14th. It's from this app, the Autobiography of a Yogi app, and for April 14th, here's the excerpt. The muscles relax during sleep, but the heart, lungs, and circulatory system are constantly at work. They get no rest. In superconsciousness, the internal organs remain in a state of suspended animation, electrified by the cosmic energy. This excerpt is from the chapter The Sleepless Saint, and he's explaining, Ram Gopal Muzumdar, he's explaining to Yogananda how he's managed to stay sleepless. Now, sleepless in yogic parlance means something else from what we ordinary people think. Most of us, when we want to sleep but we can't sleep because of too much stress, too many thoughts in the mind, and we suffer from insomnia, then we say we were sleepless. But here, Ram Gopal Muzumdar had banished the need for sleep, and that's the kind of sleepless saint that he was. He would stay in samadhi for 18 to 20 hours a day, perhaps more sometimes. And he said, because of this, he said, in ordinary sleep, the body rests, but the heart, lungs, the circulation of the blood, they all go on. And so that is an imperfect state of relaxation. But in samadhi, in superconsciousness, the entire body is, including the internal organs, they stay in a state of suspended animation, electrified by the cosmic energy. And in the book, he says, by these means, I have found it unnecessary to sleep for years. And these are high truths. It's up to us to verify that these are truths indeed. I remember Swami Kriyananda, when he had a heart issue. His heart organ had certain issues, and he had to get a pacemaker. And the pacemaker, what it does is when the heart's about to stop, it kicks in and starts doing the job of the heart. And so, very curiously, and perhaps the doctor must not have been able to understand why Swamiji was asking this, but Swamiji was, when he was about to have this implant, he was asking the doctor, but when my heart stops, what will happen? Or sort of, if the heart stops, and the doctor was saying, don't worry, your heart will never stop. And of course, for a yogi, that's the biggest worry, because his bread and butter, a true yogi's bread and butter, is to bring the control, bring the circulation of the heart, of the lungs under control. And so Swamiji, in fact, I remember I had once asked him about this phenomenon of practicing death. And he had said, yes, these things happen. First the breath stops, and then the heart stops as well. So these things, in fact, to put it in a funny situation, a couple of our doctors had come, Dr. Brahmachari Aditya, for those of you who know, and Dr. Amar, they had come to Mumbai to do a health workshop. And they were explaining the need for a proper diet. Yogananda ji recommended that once a week you take 1 day off. You fast for 1 day. And Dr. Amar, he knows how to speak simply. And so he said, you all give your bodies a Sunday. You take 1 day off from work. When will you give your stomach a Sunday? And so fasting is giving your stomach a Sunday. And everybody, I think, appreciated that particular way of explaining things. Of course, to me, it raised the next question. When will you give your heart a Sunday? When will you give your lungs a Sunday? Throughout your lifetime, these organs never get a Sunday. They never get a day off. And that's why the outcome is fatigue and a lessened lifespan. And so Sri Yukteswarji used to say, through Kriya Yoga, through scientific meditation, if you can practice these deeper states, then you can enlarge your lifespan and thereby get a longer time duration to attain complete self-realization. So though these concepts seem to be very, very exalted, let's keep them as a possibility, and let's try our best through the use of pranayama techniques to render breath and heartbeat unnecessary.
The quote for now is from April 22. I'll read it first. Saints who realize their divinity even while in the flesh know a similar twofold existence. Conscientiously engaging in earthly work, they yet remain immersed in an inward beatitude. I'll read the last sentence again. Conscientiously engaging in earthly work, they yet remain immersed in an inward beatitude. When I read that second line, it was just so touching. I felt like, oh, that is the way I'm supposed to live my life. Like I was reminded of the story where Swamiji was supposed to be writing an exam on the subject of Greek, and he basically did not attend most of the classes and could barely translate words from Greek to English. And his teacher would make fun that some of them would better not even write the exam and not have the pain to go through the exam. And what it was trying to mean was basically that he need not appear because the result is already known. But Swamiji, just few days before the exam, just affirmed himself that I am a Greek and tuned into that consciousness. And then when he wrote the exam, everyone in the class had almost failed except two people. One of the two people was Swamiji. When I say Swamiji, I mean Swami Kriyananda. So how does that line relate over here? Consciously engaging in earthly work, they yet remain immersed in an inward beatitude. Well, it to me signifies something like practicing the presence of God. That when I'm doing something physically outside, I still in my inward beatitude have that presence of God. I tune into that consciousness. When Swamiji had to write an exam on Greek, he tuned into that consciousness and said, I am a Greek. Well, we all want to become saints. That is our ultimate destiny. Then why not affirm I am a saint? And then what do saints do? Well, even while they are engaging in earthly work, they still maintain that inward beatitude of peace, of love, of kindness, of harmony. So then what does it mean to practice the presence of God? I would like to suggest two books which I think Swamiji did mention at some point. One is called The Practicing the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence, and Letters by a Modern Mystic by Frank Laubach. And I used to sometimes practice these techniques which are mentioned and just feel that God is acting through me, God is working through me. And it's not really me who's doing this. It's not really I, Vineet, the ego who's acting, but just I, Vineet, who is in the ego but trying to be the infinite, the one with God, is trying to do this. And it really helps us to, just broaden our consciousness and not just be, attached to that one point of ego, which we usually act from so many times. And there is a very funny story. I had a friend who I was having dinner with, and he was sharing that, I had my exam today. I said, oh, that's good. How did it go? And he said, it was good, but it was very interesting. I said, how? He said, Master helped me. I said, oh, really? How did he help you? And he said, well, I was trying to practice. Well, when the exam paper came, it was a 15-mark paper, and I was trying to. Now, when I say exam, it is one of the earthly work he had to do. We might end up saying that, oh, no, exams are not for me when I come on the spiritual path. Well, we have to do day-to-day things. So in any case, he saw the question paper. He was not well prepared, needless to say. And he started sitting down and meditating before writing his exam. And the professor saw him once. No, he wasn't writing his paper, but he was meditating. He came twice. He was doing the same thing, and maybe he made a few visits, and then finally he tapped him and he was like, what are you doing? You're supposed to write your exam. And he said, yes, sir, but just give me 5 more minutes. I'll then start my exam. And then I said, oh, okay, fine. And then he said, I just felt for everything I somehow knew the answer. I said, wow, that's so interesting. How much did you score? And he said, oh, I scored 13 out of 15. And I was just amazed, like he scored 13 out of 15 saying he didn't know anything. But then I had a question in my mind. Well, if Master really guided you, how did you lose those 2 marks? How was it only 13 out of 15 and not 15 on 15? And he said, and for once he just, stopped like looking at me. And then he had a smile and he said, for those 2 questions, I thought I knew the answer. Well, how many times in life we think I know, but we really don't know many times what really is happening. And this was a very humorous but a good example for me, that I may think I know, but I really don't know until really it's coming from Master or from Swamiji or from God. Until we feel that inner experience, we can do many outward things. We may think we may know, but we don't know. So every activity which we do outside has an inner beatitude, an inner experience. We act from the inside out, but not from the outside in. And it's just so amazing that you would hear many times Swamiji speaking, I wrote so many pieces, 400 pieces of music, 150 books, founded so many communities, gave so many lectures, now I'm working on this project. And he would say at the end, the reason I've been able to do this is because I have not done anything. I have let him do it through me. And he accomplished a lot. It is not possible if you just see statistically for one human being to do it. But how could he do it? By just having that inner experience. So friends, as we go ahead in life, as we march on the spiritual path, let's try to go and act really from our deeper inside, from a deep consciousness. And then we will feel that how different life could be and how wonderful we can experience our life.
This is from April 20, so the reading for today. The Spirit of God, I realized, is exhaustless bliss. His body is countless tissues of light. And of course, this is from perhaps one of the most important chapters in the autobiography, an experience in cosmic consciousness, where Yogananda, after a long time, which for him was 17 years of waiting, receives this transmission of samadhi, the highest state possible. And there he says this is what he experienced. The Spirit of God, I realized, is exhaustless bliss. And this is something Yogananda ji and Swami Kriyananda also emphasized quite a bit, that the bliss of God is exhaustless. This is something I think true spiritual seekers from all religions and all sects understand, because I remember a couple weeks ago I had gone with Vineet to see a Swami from another sect, and he was saying exactly the same thing, that the spirit, the joy of the soul is, it's inexhaustible, it never gets finished. And that's what makes this initially perhaps tiresome looking journey well worth traversing. So in the beginning, even though meditation and these activities seem boring, they seem more like exercises that you have to do. Even though there might be better things to do, it's well worth sticking around, because gradually that joy starts welling up. And as that joy starts welling up, you start enjoying the activity more and more. Some people think that, to enjoy meditation, you have to go deep. And I have always disagreed, because that has not been my experience. I have always seen that when I enjoy meditation, I go deep, the other way around. And isn't it so when you when you go to watch a movie, do you enjoy the movie if you are engrossed? Or if the movie is enjoyable, then you automatically get engrossed. And so it is. If you meditate enough times, then a grace enters in, and suddenly you realize, oh, this meditation is so enjoyable, I want to sit longer. And I want to forget about time. And so give it time. Don't give, as Yogananda ji said, if by a few dives into the ocean, you don't find the pearls, don't say that the ocean doesn't have pearls, but find fault with your diving. Dive deeper, dive longer, and use the techniques and the inspiration right. But coming back to this exhaustless nature of bliss, sometimes we do not even understand what exhaustless means. In fact, that's one reason I have this book with me, where Yogananda ji explains what this exhaustless bliss really means, and it's very interesting to read. So here is what Yogananda writes, his most advanced disciple, Rajarshi Janakananda. God is deepening the well of your samadhi. It is a bottomless well of joy throughout eternity. Even when you will reach finality, you will keep diving deeper into the ever new joy of the well of eternity. If God were finite joy, then the souls like Jesus, Buddha, Lahiri Mahashaya would get tired of him and want diversion. and would want to come back to earth. But God is eternal joy, ever new joy. He can endlessly entertain the saints with new joy, ever changing new joy. The saints are so busy enjoying the joy of eternity afresh every day that they don't want any diversion of coming back to behold a new show in the earthly movie house. And just one more, which is also very interesting, because I used to think that once you reach the highest state of samadhi, then you are one with ever new joy and then it's done. Then you know everything. But Yogananda ji here writes, silence is a bottomless sea. Even in Nirvikalp Samadhi, when one thinks he has reached the greatest depth, he has to go deeper and deeper still. Not for a millennium or two, but eternally. And when he finally declares, I now know that the ever new joy of God is unendingly ever increasing, then the devotee reaches finality. Realize this and never look for the endless end, but seek it endlessly and you will reach finality.
This quote is from April 26. A master bestows the divine experience of cosmic consciousness when his disciple, by meditation, has strengthened his mind to a degree where the vast vistas would not overwhelm him. The experience can never be given through one's mere intellectual willingness or open-mindedness. This quote is from the chapter An Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, where Sri Yukteswar ji gives the blessing of Samadhi to Paramahansa Yogananda ji. And it's a very beautiful chapter where Master shares that just before this chapter, if you have read the book Autobiography, you would see that Master had gone off to the Himalayas in search of Ram Gopal Majumdar. On the way, he thought he will see him. And when he met him, he sent him back that only your Guru will be able to give you the blessing of Samadhi. How could he? And when he comes back, and then Sri Yukteswar ji, there is a very funny story in between where Master is meditating and Sri Yukteswar ji calls him twice and Master doesn't reply, he rebels. And then the third time when Sri Yukteswar ji calls him, he says, I am meditating. And he says, I know how you're meditating. And then he summons Master and then he gives him the blessing of this cosmic experience, Samadhi. So, but here there are a few things to remember, that Ram Gopal Majumdar, who was also a self-realized master, Master told Swamiji that in the Autobiography of a Yogi, of all the saints he had met or mentioned in the Autobiography of a Yogi, all our gurus, all the masters in the line of our all masters in our line of gurus, and Ram Gopal Majumdar and the saint with two bodies, they were only fully liberated. Now, I don't say only fully liberated, I mean, they were the only ones who were fully liberated. The others were the ones who had attained the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi but still had some karma to burn. Now, I don't know what it means to have that gap. Of course, Swamiji did ask that can a person who has attained the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi not just think and burn his whole karma in just one moment? And he said he could, Master said he could, but generally they don't, and because it doesn't matter much. But in any case, here we see a very interesting thing between a guru and a disciple relationship. Ram Gopal Majumdar, though he could have given the Samadhi to Master, he did not give. Sri Yukteswar ji gave him the Samadhi. And like we read in the poem Samadhi, which is there in the same chapter, he says, by deeper, longer, thirsty, guru-given meditation. And it takes the touch of a guru. We can meditate as long as we want, as deep as we want. And even to go deep, it needs the blessings of a guru. Sometimes, and in this, Master says at the end, the experience can never be given through one's mere intellectual willingness or open-mindedness. We can say, okay, I am ready. Well, it is not enough to say I am ready for Samadhi. You have to be ready within your deepest being. Like once Dr. Lewis, one of Master's first disciple in America, he was asking Master for Samadhi. At one point, he cornered Master in a way and he was asking, I want Samadhi. And Master said, if I give, will you be able to take it? And then Dr. Lewis said, no. Well, it takes readiness from a disciple. And when you are ready, the Guru will give you Samadhi. There are many, nowadays I hear sometimes of things where people say you can awaken your Kundalini this way, you can, you can have this experience that way. Well, experiences is one thing, and we are not behind phenomena. What we are really behind is oneness with God. And how does that oneness come with? I have met, very recently I met someone who had a very spiritual experience, but it was very, he was not ready for it. It was just induced by techniques alone and was not really backed by the blessings of his Guru, because he just took some random techniques online from different people and just did them. Well, it needs the blessings of a Guru, and he went through a lot of pain, he was sharing with me. For almost a lot of time, he just felt pain in his body and he just didn't know what he could do. And it really, really needs the blessings of a Guru. And now when he's starting again, he could feel the alignment, he could feel the difference. I have a friend who had taken Kriya from a completely different path. He always knew that Yogananda ji was his Guru, but he had taken from a different lineage, not the same lineage, but from a different branch. He said that he could never feel the benefit that he could really feel after he got Kriya through Ananda. Each one's path is very unique. What is right for you may not be right for someone else. Sometimes when we have these level 1 meditation classes, learn to meditate, people ask like, what is the best path? And most of the teachers give this standard answer, at least I give this standard answer, well, all paths are the best path if it is right for you. So the question is not really which is the best path for me. The question is really what is the right path for me. And then when you are ready, when your Guru blesses you, you take the next step and you take the next step. And when he knows that you're absolutely ready and you're ready in your deepest being, he blesses you with that cosmic experience.
This is again from that same chapter, an experience in cosmic consciousness, where Sri Yukteswarji addresses these words to Yogananda. One might have the whole universe and find the Lord elusive still. Spiritual advancement is not measured by one's outward powers, but only by the depth of his bliss in meditation. And so it's a very good it's a very good guiding stone, guiding mark for us as we advance spiritually. Most people think that manifestation of powers, and I would also add manifestation of phenomena, are signs that one is advancing towards God. And Sri Yukteswarji here is saying be very careful, because those are not the only guiding marks, so to speak, that we should use. He said the only way spiritual advancement is measured is by the depth of one's bliss in meditation. Just a second. Spiritual advancement is not measured by outer powers, but by the depth of his bliss in meditation. And so in our meditations, the deeper we can go and deeper we can enjoy it. And there is that tricky part that Swami Kriyananda often used to say. As long as, even when you enjoy meditation, if you have that thought, I am enjoying it, you will see you can't go very deep. But when the focus becomes so much on enjoyment that the sense of I starts diminishing and getting washed away, that's when the flood of God's joy starts overwhelming our being. So these are good guide marks. But there is one more thing. Somebody who feels, because we don't want to delude ourselves. Sometimes we delude ourselves that our meditations are very blissful. Now somebody who feels that bliss in meditation, and if it's deep, he automatically starts transferring it into his activities, into his interactions, into the way he does things. And so watch, and if you don't, not just watch, make a conscious effort to take whatever peace and calmness and joy you feel in your meditation and transmit it through your activity, in your interactions, and be a channel for that. And by doing that, that joy multiplies. It stays all through the day. And so that joy is not lost until you sit for your next meditation. But when you sit again, you will be able to hang on to that joy and multiply it. And just to end, again, since I have this book here today, I wanted to read what did Yogananda ji mean by the bliss in meditation. Here's how Yogananda ji writes to Saint Lind, to Rajarshi Janakananda. Oh, such joy! I don't feel any sensations making any permanent impression in me. The ordinary man walks, sleeps, works, earns. I find I am settled in bliss. I am awake in bliss, ever watching the states of the body and mind, when they are awake or asleep or dreaming. Last night I ate, and when I finished, I didn't know I had eaten. Now I have gone through a slightly different variation of this experience that I eat. I remember I had eaten, but I still feel hungry. And this is not what Yoganandaji means here. He says he was so immersed in that bliss, he didn't even know if the body had taken food or not. All I knew was bliss eternal and light ever spreading. Even now, Om is bounding over my head, tying it with the starry firmament. It is all very strange, all very secret. By meditation, he makes the servant sit on the throne. Oh, this secret kingdom is yours and mine, beloved one. That is our permanent ashram, an astral hermitage, a bliss cavern, a celestial retreat of eternity, where we will dwell ever entertained in ever new bliss.
We'll very briefly share about one more quote. This is from April 15th, from the chapter The Sleepless Saint, where Yogananda ji met Ram Gopal Majumdar. Well, don't you see, my dear boy, that God is eternity itself? To assume that one can fully know Him by 45 years of meditation is rather a preposterous expectation. Babaji assures us, however, that even a little meditation saves one from the dire fear of death and after-death states. Now, when I read that line, to assume that one can fully know Him by 45 years of meditation is rather a preposterous expectation, I don't know about you, but I had to really pick myself up. But at least Ram Gopal Majumdar ji gave us some relief. He said, Babaji assures us that, however, even a little meditation saves one from the dire fear of death and after-death states. We cannot reach God just by meditating and thinking that we are meditating. Like Sagar was just mentioning, that if you have the thought that I am meditating, the very objective of finding God is to forget that I am this I and to be one with God. And then how can we find God? By just saying that I have meditated for so many years and now I'm capable of finding God. But of course, over here, in the case of Ram Gopal Majumdar ji, for 45 years he is meditated, and it is not that. The case with him is not that. The case with him was that he was so deeply engrossed in God. And just like Sagar was mentioning, that God is inexhaustible bliss. That when we find God, and like Master often said, Satchit Anandam, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss, you can dive deeper and deeper and deeper into that bliss. It is not no, I've not heard any saint ever say that, oh, I'm tired of bliss because it's the same thing every day. Well, no, it's so new, and we feel that. Maybe we don't know the highest of it, but we feel that to some extent in our meditation. Do we ever feel the same bliss? Every bliss is so unique, and every meditation which goes good, and why even rate a meditation as good or bad, but whenever we feel that bliss, it is always new, and may we dive deeper and deeper and deeper to that ever new bliss, to be one with God. Thank you, friends.